Welcome back. Prime Minister Modi arrived in Washington, D.C. to a warm reception from members of the Indian diaspora. And braving cold winds and rainfall, many members of the community gathered to catch a glimpse of the Indian leader. During his visit, the Prime Minister is staying at Blair House, the official guest house of the United States President, which has been adorned with the Indian tricolor to mark the occasion. Now, the U.S. President, Donald Trump, will host the Prime Minister for their first bilateral talks since Trump began his second term last month. Their discussions are expected to focus on strengthening India-U.S. cooperation in key areas such as trade, investment, energy, defense, technology, and immigration as well. The Prime Minister also met with the U.S. intelligence chief, Tulsi Gabbard. He congratulated her for being confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence. And the meeting between the two leaders takes place against the backdrop of rising global tensions, including Trump's trade tariffs on multiple nations, his controversial Gaza peace plan, and his ongoing mass deportation of illegal immigrants.
India has also been positioning itself, as an alternative to global supply chains that emanate from China. We've got the PLI model. How do we see that panning out now, particularly, of course, with India also announcing its own economic corridor from here on, so on and so forth? How do you see that actually?
I think that's a wonderful opportunity because, President Trump has emphasized how he wants to actually increase the presence of manufacturing, in the United States and in India as well, we have been really working very hard to improve manufacturing. And I think there, in my opinion, actually there is significant complementarity because some of the high value-added manufacturing can actually be done in the US and some of the more labor-intensive manufacturing can actually be done in India. And therefore, there is a natural synergy there that can be utilized significantly.
Do you see the recent changes politically in any way affecting the Indian-American community?
So I think if you look at the Indian-American community, and this is where Indian-Americans actually sort of not only distinguish themselves in the, in the diaspora, overall global diaspora, but compared to other countries as well, the Indian-Americans are actually, not only are they incredibly, well educated, they're professionally qualified, and they're actually now, many of the tech CEOs are Indian. And so the fact that India actually brings a lot of technical competence and professional competence is something that is really well established here.
The entire talk around tariffs. Now, one thing is about political rhetoric. How serious an issue do you think this is that is going to impact upon India?
So I think, from the Indian perspective, and, you would note that the Indian budget, the recent budget that was passed as well, took some important steps in this regard. Conversation actually would be far more beneficial if it is looked at it in a more holistic perspective, not just focused on goods trade and that too on tariffs, rather than that actually across this 2x2 matrix, all the four, so goods and services and tariff and non-tariffs as well. I think that is where there can be actually a lot of common ground in my opinion.
And in the backdrop, the opposition is lauding the fact that the Prime Minister is among the first world leaders to receive an appointment from President Trump. Listen in.
It's a fairly significant matter that our Prime Minister is amongst the first world leaders to receive an appointment from President Trump. That's a good sign. I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, the fourth head of government to arrive in Washington. The Trump administration is not even 1 month old. So this is a very significant thing. What they're discussing, we don't know. We're all waiting for a readout. But I think all of us in India know that some issues are important for us. There are trade issues of Mr. Trump talking about tariffs. There are issues to do with the H-1B visas for legal Indian immigration. There is issues to do with the manner in which the illegal immigrants were sent back and they were treated in very inhumane ways. That will also have to be addressed.
We want to welcome our guests to the broadcast. We have Mr. Achal Malhotra, who is a former ambassador. We also have Mr. Vijay Sadhana, who's a senior economist, joining us on the broadcast. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking out the time to discuss this with us. Mr. Malhotra, I want to come to you first. How would you quantify this visit? How significant is this visit of the Prime Minister to the United States, given the grand scheme of things when we talk about the relationship between the two countries?
Well, let me begin by making few general observations about relations between the two countries. One, by description, it is a strategic, comprehensive, global. These three words convey a lot. Comprehensive because if you look at the canvas, we cover so many areas. it is global in the sense that the two sides are committed to work together for the global good. Then there is a bipartisan support in America for promoting and strengthening relations between the two countries. What makes this particular visit interesting is it is happening uh, during Trump 2.0, and Trump 2.0 is sounding much different from Trump 2.1. To me, he has emerged something like an imperialist president who wants Canada to be 51st state of America, who wants to buy Greenland, who wants to have a full control over Gaza so as to develop it as a real estate, as a Riviera of the Middle East. And then he has been transactional, that we all know. And there are some wrinkles, all said and done. We are having excellent relations in all key areas, but there are some wrinkles and some divergences. Let me point it out. One is the trade, of course. Trade is there. And if during this visit we are able to agree to resume the trade talks, ultimately leading to a mini trade deal, even if it is, finally to a comprehensive trade agreement, I think this would be a great achievement. Then I think it's quite clear from the Paris Artificial Intelligence Action Summit that I think we have a different approach because the United States and UK decided not to sign the leaders' declaration, while we have been talking about global regulation about on the artificial intelligence and transparencies, inclusiveness. The Americans have given different signals. So this is a point where probably we'll have to see where we can meet. Defense, I think it's in mutual interest. Americans have their own reasons because they want to sell.
Absolutely.
And we have our own reasons. We want to strengthen our defense capacities. If only we can come to an agreement on, say, transfer of technology, joint manufacturing, at least of the spare parts, that would be a happier situation in my assessment. Otherwise, there's nothing to go gala gala about that we agreed to buy, they agreed to sell X, Y, Z, whatever, howsoever sophisticated. Because then we are increasing our dependence on Americans, and who knows tomorrow if they withdraw, we'll be in trouble. Then this immigration, much has been talked about it.
Absolutely, but I think we should also hope to see this as, hopefully this will progress into a relationship that's going to be mutually beneficial to both sides. Mr. Malhotra, do remain with us. We also want to get a word in from Mr. Sardana, who also remains with us on the broadcast. Mr. Sardana, bouncing off of something that Mr. Malhotra had to say about Trump being more of an imperialist regime when we talk about his 2.0 administration, I'm wondering, when we talk about tariffs, there has been speculation about the fact that we're going to be seeing reciprocal tariffs being imposed ahead of the meeting that takes place between Trump and Modi. When we talk about tariffs, can this not serve as a move that will isolate the United States? Because no man is an island, but no nation is either. And this may seem like a blatant effort to showcase Western dominance. What would you have to say to this?
Yeah, first of all, good afternoon to you, fellow panelists and the viewers. See, you have to understand who is running America under Trump 2.0. This is a group of ruthless businessmen. They think very differently than a politician or a diplomat. Now, whether you talk about Elon Musk, you talk about other team members, you look into their track record. See, whatever is happening, Trump is not doing on their own. There is a think tank behind it. They have their own action plan, and then they are taking,
of course,
ruthlessly harsh decision which nobody expected. Even putting tariff to some of the closest allies and not thinking the second way what can be the alternate option. So you know it how the businessman works. They put the situation tough for you, and then they force you to come to negotiating table. Then they look into what they need from you, and then they say, now let us sign an agreement. So this is a very well-defined business mindset in diplomacy. It is no more niceties that you will feel bad or I will feel good and somebody will feel hurt. This relationship under Trump is not going to be about niceties. It is going to be results. Are you with me? You are without me? How I am going to handle the whole thing? So one has to be very clear. You are going to handle the ruthless environment for next 4 years. That is one thing very clear. Second, why Trump
Okay.
is doing this? Because they know that if they have to make America great again, they need investment. They have to reduce their dependence on the rest of the world. Today, their trade deficit is almost in goods. It is about $1.2 trillion. Services, they are a little bit positive. Now, in this case, they have to counter every country by saying either you force us to manufacture in America so that trade dependency goes down, or you reduce tariffs so that I can export more and my trade deficit goes down. Now, they are very clearly, they have two options, either this way or that way. There is no midway in the game. Now, that is what one has to look at it. Now, when it comes to India, if you look into the top 7-8 countries, India is thankfully among the last. Our trade deficit is anything about 43 to 47 billion dollars. Other countries like China has 250. Vietnam even have a 123 billion dollar trade deficit. So they have already taken action against those countries where there is a massive trade deficit. Why they have left India, you have to also think through. They need India for their strategic reason, and they are also looking at India as a market. They are not looking at India to become like India become great or India become manufacturing. They have no interest in India. Let's be very practical. They are only interested to use India for their playground against China, Russia. Second, they want to use India's 1.4 billion market for their commercial gains. They are very clear. We are talking of diplomacy and goodness and greatness. They don't care for this. This is English. You keep it. We will listen, clap. But beyond that, we are not interested. What we are talking about here is that what is our game plan? And that is why if you look into today's my video on my channel, Vijay Sardana Insight, I did a detailed analysis that why agreements between France is very important plan B for Modi in case America does anything nasty or harsh against India. You have to read that. Exactly all those points are covered between France and India, which America wants to discuss. It means Modi is going with a sense of confidence and comfort. If Trump is going to have a hard bargain, there is a plan B ready with me. So that is where I think Modi is comparatively comfortable. And then we will see that how both countries decide, because internationally, they need each other. There is a symbiotic relation.
Like you said, Mr. Sardana, we're going to have to
investment.
wait and see how this exactly evolves, because we're going to be seeing that very significant bilateral take place later today. Do remain with us. Mr. Malhotra, coming back to you now, I think some interesting statements have been made about the fact that we need a mutually beneficial relationship as far as economies are concerned. The fact that Mr. Sardana was also talking about the fact that when it comes to India and the United States, there's no larger interest that the U.S. has of making India great, which of course is not going to be expected anyway when we talk about two vastly different nations. But looking ahead, what can we expect when it comes to talks between the Prime Minister and the President? Because as far as we've heard so far, deportations and tariffs are going to be some of the key elements in play.
Well, I think much of it would be a review of the state of affairs at the moment. And in generic terms, I'm talking. And they would like to set a roadmap for the next 3-4 years. And to be specific, I think they'll talk about some defense deals and deals in the nuclear energy, because we have decided to enhance the share of nuclear energy in our energy mix substantially. If you look at the budget that we have announced this year, there is a mission nuclear energy and allocation of funds, and we are planning to go up to 100 gigawatt. Then we have also indicated that we are willing to amend the Civil Nuclear Liability Act. In other words, we are looking at the possibility of collaboration in this field. So energy, within energy, nuclear energy, Americans are likely to push that we buy more oil and gas from them, because America, Trump, you have heard him saying drill, 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 because he wants to, increase the production of oil and gas in America. And immigration, I don't think it will be on formal agenda. because our position is clear. We don't encourage illegal immigration, and on regular, the immigration, our views are also clear that we believe in mobility and human mobility across the world.
But
It is a
sir, don't you think we're
procedural
going
matter.
to see a discussion possibly on the way that illegal immigrants are treated?
No, I was coming to that. That's an issue which will not, very unlikely to be on the formal agenda between the two leaders. It's a matter of procedures now, and it's being handled at a relatively lower level, but at the senior officials level. So definitely there will be a talk. At what forum will it be, between who will talk to whom? I am not very sure about it. But to imagine that it will be an item on the agenda between Modi, when Modi and
Okay.
Trump meet, looks very difficult to me. But yes, they are engaging. We are already engaging. And definitely
All right.
it was not in a good taste for the American immigration authorities to make a video and release it. They did it for a particular reason. They
Absolutely.
were
We'll
trying
have
to
to, I
send it.
think, wait and see how these talks really develop, and we'll continue to track the developments there. Mr. Malhotra, sorry for interrupting you. We're a little short in time, but I do want to thank you, gentlemen, for taking out the time to discuss and look ahead at what exactly we can expect as far as the relationship between the two nations is concerned.